Hi dear subscribers, most watch me without a subscription, support my channel with a subscription, and I will make you happy with new story.
Story 1. I insulted my friend's boyfriend and told her dad that he's a horrible father. I insulted my friend's boyfriend and told her dad that he's a horrible father, and now I'm afraid that I've lost her for good. I, 21F, have a friend, I'll call her Ella, 17F, who I recently found out is dating a guy, 23M, that for the sake of this story we'll call Carl. For some background, Ella and I have been friends for a few years. We went to the same church and first met when she was about 11 or 12 and I was 16. We quickly became close and I took her under my wing and thought of her like my little sister. We would often sleep over at each other's houses, so we both became close with each other's families as well. I always admired her dad because he raised her and her siblings as a single dad, and I knew that must not have been easy. I never talked to him that much as he was always pretty reserved with other people, but he seemed like a nice and cool guy. Well, fast forward a couple years, I moved away for college, so naturally Ella and I grew apart, but we still kept in touch. Even though we aren't nearly as close as we used to be, I still try to visit her and her family every once in a while when I am back in town to spend my breaks with my family. Last week was one of the times that I decided to pay them a visit before I went back to campus. I had dinner with them, and at first all was going well. After dinner, Ella and I decided to go up to her room to play some games and catch each other up on our lives. I hadn't been able to visit them in over a year due to scheduling conflicts and only interacted with her occasionally over text and social media, so we had a lot to talk about. I talked to her about school, my job, how things were going with my boyfriend, etc. I decided to ask her about how things were with her and her boyfriend since at this point I knew nothing about him. All I knew was that they had recently celebrated their 1-year anniversary, which I saw her posting about on Instagram. I asked her what his name was, if he went to the same school as her, how they met, just basic stuff like that. She told me that his name was Carl, and that he didn't go to the same school because he already graduated. She is currently a senior, so at this point I'm thinking that he graduated high school just last year, and he's probably a year older than her. Not that big of a deal in my eyes since they would have met when they were still in high school. Then she goes on to tell me that they met because he's the brother of her older sister's boyfriend. For reference, her older sister is 19 and her boyfriend is 20. Jokingly, I say something along the lines of how it was nice of her sister to set her up with the younger brother. Then she corrects me and says, no, Carl is actually the older brother. I pause. I had to take a second to process what she just said and do some math in my head. I then turn to her and ask how old is Carl exactly. She tells me that he just turned 23. My jaw drops to the ground. When she told me that he already graduated, she meant that he had graduated college. I immediately ask her how old they were when they first met, and she tells me that she was 16 and he was 21. I freak out and tell her that it's extremely inappropriate for someone of his age to be dating someone this much younger than him. She gets annoyed and tells me that it's not that big of a deal and that she's mature for her age and turning 18 in February anyways. I tell her that that's not the point and that she's not mature for her age, that's just something that predators say to young girls when trying to groom them. She got super upset and told me that he's not a predator and that she doesn't understand why I can't just let her be happy for once. I try to calm her down and explain to her that I'm just trying to protect her because I was in her shoes once and got groomed at around the same age. I've talked to her about this before, so she knows how much it traumatized me and how it still affects me to this day. She then responds by saying, well, this is different and my dad even approves of it. I'm sorry, but it's not my fault that you got with the wrong guy and got SA'd. I was shocked. After that, I didn't say another word to her and just grabbed my stuff and stormed out of her room. On my way out, her dad stopped me to ask if everything was okay, and remembering what Ella said, I asked him, do you really approve of Ella's boyfriend? Did you know that he's 23? He looked taken aback and confused. He then hesitantly said, well, yes, he's actually a pretty nice guy, even Ella's grandparents approve of him. You should meet him sometime, I'm sure you'd like him. At this point, I was fuming. How could basically all of the adults in Ella's life be failing to see how dangerous this is for their daughter? I start raising my voice and telling him that it's his job to protect his daughter and that her boyfriend should be arrested or put on some kind of list. Her dad starts to become angry and tells me that I don't have any right to tell him how to parent his children and that Ella is mature and old enough to decide who to be in a relationship with. I blew up and just yelled, "You're a horrible father," as I exited out their front door. The whole family has been blowing up my phone demanding that I apologize to Ella, her dad, and even her boyfriend since Ella told him what happened. I refused, and now Ella has me blocked on all social media. This whole situation makes me both sad and angry at the same time. Angry because all the adults in Ella's life who should know better are failing to protect her, and sad because I genuinely care for Ella and only wanted the best for her, and I'm now afraid I've lost her as a friend for good. Edit. I probably should have mentioned this in my original post, but I just forgot for some reason. The main reason why I probably got as upset as I did and freaked out is because Ella had previously mentioned to me before this whole conversation that she had lost her virginity to him. At the time I still didn't know his age, so I assumed that they were around the same age. Did her mentioning that she lost her V card make me uncomfortable since I saw her as a little sister? Absolutely. But I know that a lot of teenagers start losing their V card at this age, so I was just concerned about if she was being safe and using protection. Knowing that she had sexual relations with her boyfriend brings a lot of legal issues into play. The age of consent where we live is 16, however the other person cannot be more than 60 months, 5 years, older. I learned that his birthday is December 1999, while her birthday is February 2005, which makes it technically illegal where we live. This is probably why I blew up so much, especially at their dad, which I now admit I may have gone too far with. I know I probably should have mentioned this concern to their father in the first place and had a more civil conversation with him, but I was so angry at the time that I couldn't think straight. I think I might reach out and sit down to have a conversation with him, though I don't know if it would fix my friendship with Ella, as in her eyes I would essentially be snitching and telling their dad, "Hey, did you know that your kid is having sex?" He doesn't, by the way. He's very firm on waiting until marriage, but who knows, we'll see. Update 1 day later. I found out that my friend's boyfriend has a history of dating younger girls, and now I don't know what to do. So I made a post just last night about how I, 21F, was trying to be protective of my friend Ella, 17F, after I found out she was in a relationship with her boyfriend Carl, 23M, and ended up offending her family. It didn't get a lot of attention and only received a couple of comments, however you can still look for it on my profile if you want more details. But to summarize, I learned that my friend Ella, who is still a minor, starting dating a guy, Carl, when she was 16 and he was 21, about to turn 22. Thanks for watching, don't forget to subscribe, thank you. She is now 17 and he is 23. I was shocked, and in the heat of the moment I said some things that were probably not wise to say at the time, like accusing her boyfriend of being a predator without getting to know him. I also ended up telling her dad that he was a horrible father for allowing this man to be with his daughter who is still in high school, which I did come to regret after cooling off. Many of the comments that I received on that post told me that I should go and apologize for offending their family. Some also said that since the legal age of consent is 16 and my friend will be turning 18 in February, it was not my place to give them my input and accuse her boyfriend and father of such things. Though I do have differing views regarding age gaps in relationships, especially when it comes to minors, I do acknowledge that I could have brought up my concern in a more civil manner without throwing insults around. I just ended up saying those things in the heat of the moment, but I do regret how I went about doing that. It has been a few days since I have been in contact with anyone in the family, and Ella ended up blocking me on social media. So I contacted her older sister to reach out and explain that I wanted to sit down to apologize to all of them. Her sister called me a few minutes after I sent that text and asked if I had some time to meet and talk today. This was all this morning. I said sure, and we met up at this small cafe to have some coffee while we chatted. Apparently a lot has happened within the past couple days after they had all given up on blowing up my phone. It turns out that Carl got their 15-year-old cousin pregnant. They all found out about 2 days ago after Ella's dad received an angry phone call from her parents, since this apparently happened under his supervision when she went over to their house for a sleepover where Carl was present. They threatened to take Carl to court, but Ella's dad managed to calm them down and started talking about solutions. Ella's older sister told me that her dad and Carl became very close friends over the year that Ella and him have been together, so he's trying his best to do all that he can to protect him. He even offered to pay them a good sum of money to keep everything on the down low. So far, they have come up with the solution that their cousin will carry their baby to term and that Ella's dad will pay for all of the medical expenses. Then once the baby is born, she will allow for Ella and Carl to raise the baby as their own since Ella will be 18 and graduated from high school by then. That's not all. Ella's older sister also said that they found out that Carl's ex, who he dated before getting with Ella, was 13 when he was 20. However, they were only together for a few months because as soon as the girl's parents found out, they threatened to call the police on him and forbade him from ever going near their daughter again. Ella's family only found this out because I guess their cousin's parents did some digging on Carl and contacted his ex's parents after finding out that Ella's cousin was pregnant. Of course, this was before they contacted Ella's dad and before he calmed them down to talk about a solution. When her sister questioned why he was so adamant on protecting Carl, he said that he was a nice guy who just so happened to make some mistakes and that going to jail would ruin his future. This conversation ended with Ella's older sister in tears, so I bought her a little dessert from the cafe that we were at to try and make her feel better. She said that she's just been so stressed with everything going on and that she's wanted to reach out to me, but she just wouldn't have known what to say, so she's grateful that I reached out first. I asked her how Ella was doing and what she thought about it, and she said that Ella will continue to be with Carl and even agreed to help him raise the baby. At first, Ella was mad at Carl for cheating on her, but he convinced her that her cousin tempted him and made the first move, so now Ella is more upset with her cousin for being a homewrecker. They now have plans to get married after she graduates high school, and her older sister has been trying to talk her out of it, but she apparently just won't listen. After hearing all of this, I was just left speechless and didn't know how to respond. Ella's sister was still crying, so I just gave her a hug and told her that it wasn't her fault and that I'm sorry I wasn't there for them and that I should have apologized sooner. She told me that I didn't have to apologize because I was right about everything, but it still just doesn't sit well with me about how I handled everything. Before we left the cafe, I gave her another hug and told her to call me if she ever needs anything. I said that I would try to get into contact with Ella, but she said that she highly doubts I would be able to get through to her either at this point. Now I'm not sure what to do. Right now, I just want to try and protect my friend like I always have. But if she won't even listen to her older sister, what chance do I have at getting through to her? I'm just so confused and frustrated. Edit. Thank you so much to everyone who has reached out and given me advice on how to go about reporting this to the authorities. I knew that I wanted to report this as I don't want Carl to get away with what he did to those poor girls, especially since I'm a survivor of grooming and SA as well and unfortunately wasn't able to receive any justice. I think I was just still in shock after hearing everything initially and needed a little bit to collect my thoughts, but I have been talking with Ella's sister more and it seems like she will be willing to cooperate with me to gather evidence and information to report to CPS and the police even if it means getting cut off from her father financially. We will be making a lot of phone calls throughout the week, so I promise to update as soon as possible. Again, thank you to everyone who reached out to give advice and support. Now that I have Ella's sister on board, I have a good feeling that these young girls will finally be able to receive the justice that they deserve. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Thank you. Story 2. I, 23F, called my BF, 25M, my ex's name during Uno by accident. And now he wants to break up. TLDR, so I introduced my BF to my dad today. All day it went really smooth. But in the evening, we played one more round of Uno and it sped up and I accidentally prompted that it was his turn by saying my ex's name. There was silence on his part on the way home and he then proceeded to break up with me for it. Okay, little more backstory. I currently still live with my ex till April. We broke up at the end of November cause I found him cheating. We were together 2 years. At this point, I was already pretty emotionally detached cause he was very neglectful in our relationship down to the bare minimum. Anyways, I met my current BF at work. We immediately had mutual attraction but stayed friends till I officially ended stuff with my ex. About 10 days later, my BF asked me out. So everything had been going smoothly the last month and a half. We were super into each other. He spoiled me and treated me better than any man I've ever had in my life. And I did the same back to him. He was uncomfortable though that I still lived with my ex. Which to be fair, I understand, but I'm currently waiting on my cousin to move to my town in April and saving money for my own place cause rent is crazy nowadays. I hate my ex, I only feel disdain towards him. But my BF always had a certain sense of jealousy and irritation about him. Like he wouldn't come to my apartment because he didn't want to run into my ex. But in general, I tried my best to avoid my ex at all costs anyways. 2 days ago, we had a conversation where he didn't like how much I talked about him. I mentioned my ex cause it's a current issue in my life and my cousin is in love with his best friend who we also live with. I reassured him there was nothing to worry about and that I had only feelings for him. He still seemed a little uneasy about it all but agreed that was his insecurities and I was trying my best to handle the situation at hand. So skip to today. My BF met by dad. All day went super great. At the end we were playing board games and he insisted on playing Uno one round cause I get heated with it when I play with my cousin who was also there the whole day. First round goes fine, it's late, I'm tired. And towards the end of the second round I go to cue my BF cause it's starting to really speed up and accidentally call him by my ex's name. I immediately knew I fucked up and he said the car drive would be silent. We finished the game and left. An hour later, we arrived home where he asked to talk to me privately. He says I talked to much of my exes and that calling him my ex's name was the last straw. I had an abusive mom and no family or friends cause I immigrated to America, so my exes are the biggest parts of my life, that it broke my loyalty in his eyes, and if he ignored this he'd be neglecting boundaries he set for himself with prior exes. And said that until I find my own place and distance myself from my ex, he could not continue to call me his GF. That he liked me and wanted us to work, but that I needed to get my thoughts straight. Now I don't know what to do. I really like this guy and I feel horrible for calling him my ex's name, but at the same time I think it's a dramatic step to break up over it. But to him this was really important. I work with him too, so work's gonna be extra awkward too. What should I do? Did I really mess up so much that it has to end the relationship? I want to fix this, I just don't know how, like I've never liked someone like him before. It's the whole reason I skipped my year of being single. But now I feel like a fish out of water. Thanks for watching, don't forget to subscribe, thank you.